Yeah, the thing about it being a gun used to kill pigs was something that I heard, which seems pretty hilarious. And I saw a headline article when they thought it was a 3D printed gun. I saw a headline article that said the shooter may have used a gun that you can make at home, which I thought was a hilarious and irresponsible headline, but I'm here for it. It does seem, I will say that this guy, while he has some questionable politics, in some cases some admirable politics, and, you know, he seems to have done what he did for the right reasons. He also seems kind of, I guess, in the tradition of Ted Kaczynski, he seems a bit self-obsessed. And this whole thing, not only was it carefully planned, but he seemed to have carefully planned for this very scenario. So he's left all the breadcrumbs, and like there's certain things that seem like he deliberately, like reviews that he left on books that seem like it was, deliberate that people would end up finding that and reading that. So, I mean, I don't know if that really takes away from the situation. And yeah, like you said, this guy was a rich kid. He comes from money. He has family that was involved in the GOP and shit. So, he's not necessarily, it's kind of a matter of class traitorism, which is good. That's what we want, is for people like him to go against their own class. But I don't know, there's something about him that seems like he wanted all of this fanfare and this sort of bombast around it, and now he's yelling to the press and he's trying to get attention, which honestly he should do that. He should try to make this as much of a spectacle as he can, because that will cause this to go on for longer. But there's also something about the thing I think I'm the most disappointed by is the fact that it seems to be so like self-obsessed and kind of narcissistic about this. It kind of takes away from the folksiness of it a little bit. But like you said, him being like kind of a right-wing weirdo, honestly, that doesn't take away from the folky nature of what he's doing. I mean, it's it's part and parcel for people like this to have weird, questionable politics, and it seems to have amounted to something that most people can relate to. So I guess I don't hold that against him, but I wonder if it's a good thing, not only that he, tried to like set up the situation for self-glorification, but if everybody playing into that is a good thing, which, obviously the ruling class, the establishment, doesn't want that, and they're the ones who are complaining about this guy being lionized. So fuck them. And as far as I'm concerned, he is a hero for what he did, or at least he's admirable for what he did. But yeah, I don't know, it's like, because this guy is kind of weird on the political spectrum and maybe has some beliefs that are questionable, I wonder how far he's gonna take this whole like media rodeo, if he can. It almost is starting to remind me a little bit of like a Ted Bundy type character or something, like somebody who's getting off on fucking with the media. So we'll see where it all goes.
I keep seeing conspiracy theories that he's not the killer. That they're showing like there's like two photos, right, that they had of him, the famous smiling one and then one other one. And they're like, well, if you look at the eyebrows, this doesn't look like him. The one guy, I think it's the smiling one, the eyebrows do look completely different. And then there's like, oh, well, it's this jacket's different than that jacket, and these backpack straps are gray where these ones are black and stuff like that. And I don't know, photos can look different and this and that. I don't think it was conspiracy theory, but people were saying, isn't it convenient that he was found in a McDonald's, just being in public, wearing the exact same outfit days later with a bag that has his manifesto and his gun in it and this and that. And it's like, yeah, that does seem a little weird that he wouldn't have gotten rid of that stuff, that he wouldn't have tried to change up his look or whatever, where there's so many pictures of him out there. But I don't know, like the theory that it was a professional hit and he is the fall guy and being framed just seems so far-fetched to me. I don't see that. I think he had become completely unhinged and was out of his mind. And after he did it, he wasn't thinking about, covering himself up, changing his look, trying to get away or keep himself hidden, at least, because he wasn't in that mindset. He was just, out there, and it's unfortunate because I feel like the guy should get away with it, but I don't believe any of these weird conspiracies. It seems like he's owning it. He's got the manifesto. If he was just some dude busted and they're like, yeah, we found this backpack, it has a manifesto and a gun in it, and he was straight up denying it, then I could believe it, because it does seem a little far-fetched that they were able to get him 5 days later wearing the same outfit with all the evidence on him. Like, I get that being weird, but, I think that's all it is at the end of the day. Just kind of weird.
No, there's only one sort of conspiracy that I'm a little convinced by so far with the Mangione thing. I do think that he is the guy. I mean, I think one thing that people on the internet have a tendency to do is see two pictures that look slightly different and be like, oh, this can't be the same person. It's like sometimes things just like don't look the way you would think they do. I mean, because the thing they're pointing to about his eyebrows is that he sort of has like a unibrow in general, and in those pictures he like didn't. And I don't know. I'm not persuaded by that at all, because the eyebrows do look the same. You're right that you can't really see the sort of unibrow the way you do in the other pictures, but to me that just means nothing. I mean, his eyebrows could have grown out. It could have just been something about the way the picture was taken. It's like when people show pictures of Biden's ear and like, oh, it looks different in this picture, that means it's a mask. You know what I mean? It's just dumb. But I think something about the internet and the way images get presented through the internet makes it a little bit easier for people to come to conclusions like that. So I think it's the same guy. Everything about the situation seems to point to the fact that it's the same guy. The only thing that I'm persuaded by a little bit is the fact some people are saying that that the clumsiness of the way that he was caught is the part where there's something weird, and there is some speculation that essentially like the feds through the NSA and stuff like that were illegally tracking him, and so they had a pin on him already, and that's how they caught him, and then they had to retcon a story about how they got him. And so the idea that a patron in McDonald's, spotted him and called the police, that's the part that's bullshit. That I buy. I don't know if I'm completely convinced by it, but that would make sense to me in terms of what I know about the government and how they operate and things that are in the realm of possibility. There's a couple pictures out now of him at the McDonald's eating like a hash brown or something, and I don't know how they would have gotten those pictures. I mean, I guess somebody might have taken a picture of him while he was there. It looks a little odd. There are some people who are saying that there's some people saying that they think that the kiosk, like the self-serve kiosk in McDonald's, might be the thing that identified him. That seems like a stretch to me, not because I think the feds are above using that type of technology to identify somebody, but it's like, if you really take yourself through that, like, how does that make sense? Every McDonald's kiosk throughout all of America is rigged so that they can give it a certain facial recognition pattern, and like, so they're tracking every McDonald's kiosk in America waiting for a guy to come. I don't really buy that. That's a little bit much, but the only way that could be believable is if they knew he was in a certain area, and so they were using all of the technology that they could in that certain area to identify him, and so the kiosk spotted him that way. Still, I don't really think that's likely. I think it's more likely that they had some kind of geodata on him and had to kind of create a story after the fact for how he was caught. And again, I'm not fully persuaded by that, but that's the only theory that to me is plausible.
And then how do you feel about that guy Daniel Penny getting off for murdering Jordan Neely in New York? That is a pretty interesting juxtaposition to what we're seeing, right? Because we have like Fox News and the New York Post. They're literally glorifying Jordan Neely and demonizing Luigi Mangione at the same time, like right next to each other in coverage. It almost seems deliberate that they're doing that. So it's an interesting like moment in history where that guy gets off. And Mangione's now being extradited to New York, so I think it's very likely that he's going to get off. But also the prosecutors probably know that, so they're probably going to do whatever they can to try to avoid a situation like that. And it's possible that, like I was saying, this guy might have the floor drop underneath him and they might, send him to a fucking CIA black site or something. Specifically, if they feel like he's going to get off, the feds might try to like step in and basically find some way to keep him in custody for as long as possible without him actually being convicted of a trial, sort of Guantanamo style.
As far as the Neely murder goes, I'm not super well versed on that. I actually hadn't heard of that till just recently and was reading about it yesterday. And it is really interesting, the juxtaposition of those two events. I don't know a whole lot about what happened and whether this Penny guy was super in the wrong. It seems like he was. It seems like he went overboard. It doesn't seem like he did it out of a place for hatred of the guy. It seemed like he didn't know what the hell he was doing, holding the guy in the chokehold that long. And if the reports of what Jordan was doing was true, I could see thinking he was a danger. Apparently there were kids and stuff like that on the subway car. But I don't know. Without like being there or anything like that, it'd be really hard. Or knowing more about Penny's character or anything like that. But there was one thing I thought that was interesting where apparently some of the other passengers were helping to restrain Jordan, and like one guy grabbed his arms and told Penny that like, okay, once I've got these arms secure, you can let go of him. I've got him. And Penny said, no, you don't understand how strong he is. He'll get away. And so it seems like he had every opportunity to stop holding the guy. If he honestly believed the guy was going to hurt other people, I can sympathize with that and trying to help. But he clearly went overboard, didn't know what he was doing, and shouldn't have been the guy to try and stop someone who could potentially hurt people. But it... more to your actual question about the event, it is crazy how the media will take one thing like this and another thing that's so similar. I mean, they're different, right? I mean, Jordan Neely, was apparently threatening people, saying that he wanted food and drink, and he was willing to kill people or go to the jail for the rest of his life to get it. And if you thought that was an imminent threat, I get it. Whereas this CEO douchebag is literally responsible for the death of millions, but wasn't actively attacking someone in the moment. So, I mean, I see their argument about how different it is, but clearly that CEO was a worse thorn in society's side than poor, mentally ill street artist Jordan Neely. To say that something Penny, is it David Penny, Daniel Penny, something like that, Mr. Penny, to say he is a hero for helping out those people in the street cart and stepping in, or the subway car, and stepping in and stopping that guy, unfortunately killing him. But Luigi Mangione is a cold-blooded killer when he stopped a man responsible for millions of deaths. No, fuck that.
My understanding of the Penny and Neely situation is a little different, because I knew that he thought that Neely was being threatening. He was yelling and sort of being aggressive, but he wasn't attacking anybody. He hadn't attacked anybody. He hadn't done anything violent. And Neely, in restraining him, or Penny in restraining him, did this deadly chokehold. It's a chokehold that's meant to kill people. And he was a Marine, so he knows that. So even if he had did it temporarily and then let him up, that's one thing. But he purposely held this guy in a position that would cut off the air to his brain for long enough to kill him. So to me, while I'm kind of sympathetic to the idea of like stepping in if you feel like someone's a threat to others, it didn't seem like that to me. To me, what it seemed like is that he sort of hates people that are in the position that Jordan Neely was in. And like you said, he was screaming about food and water. He was desperate. And so, for Penny to step into that situation and not just restrain him, but restrain him in a way that was violent enough to kill him, that seems open and shut, that he did that on purpose and that he wanted to kill the guy. So I understand that there is some gray area in terms of like what are you supposed to do in that situation? Is it appropriate to step in when somebody is being threatening, if there's women and children on a subway car, and how far does that go, and are you able as a citizen to just restrain people? And I think that there is some argument to be made there, but if this guy was a fucking former Marine, then he should know how to do that in a way that's not going to fucking kill somebody. So the fact that he killed him, to me, seems rather purposeful.
Yeah, I didn't know as much about that. I had only read his description of the events, and obviously his description is going to paint him in the better light. I did not read that he was attacking people yet. Neither he was attacking people, just that he was threatening to. And for him to take it to the physical level, then, even if you believe he's going to attack, that's definitely over the line in my book. Standing up and saying, hey, you're not going to do anything to, these kids or women or whatever, I will stop you if you try, calm down, or something like that. Obviously, nothing wrong with that. But to take it straight to something physical, and then I didn't realize it was, I guess it's a sleeper hold, right? The thing about that kind of chokehold that cuts off the blood to the brain, it's called a sleeper hold because you pass out from it, so he would definitely know you need to let go of the person as soon as they pass out. And even that's really bad for someone. You shouldn't be doing that. But like I said, with the part about the other passengers that were helping restrain him, the guy said he had his arms and he could let go of him. And he said, no, I'm, trying to, you don't know how strong he is. He'll break out of your hold or whatever. He took it way too far at that point. Clearly, he is responsible for this man's death. Whether or not he thought he was doing the right thing and really helping those people is what I was saying I don't know about. But knowing that, I didn't know he was a trained Marine, and I didn't know it was a sleeper hold. Like, knowing all those things, yeah, it definitely feels like there was a little more than him just trying to stop this guy. That, yeah, I guess he probably did have hatred for, a street person, a unhoused busker trying to make his living. And, the guy, like you said, desperate. If you're screaming about food and water, probably mentally ill already, clearly. And you're in that place, you're not doing it from a place of menacing or malice. You're just, on the fucking edge. He probably wasn't going to hurt anybody. So, I mean, fuck this Penny guy,
So some pretty bleak news. Not only has Lena Khan in the FTC officially being replaced by Trump. Trump has announced his replacement, some corporate hack who said he's going to end Lena Khan's war on business, meaning, stopping scam business practices and returning money back to consumers. Gonna replace her with some fucking corporate hack. I don't even know his name, but not that surprising that Trump is replacing her. I mean, that was always pretty obvious that was going to happen. But also, Manchin and Sinema in the Senate have officially prevented Biden's NLRB head from being reappointed, which would have been the head of the NLRB for the next 2 years. And so, yeah, Manchin and Sinema once again have come back to give us all a middle finger. And so now Trump is going to control the NLRB. One of the few really good things that Biden has been able to do with his presidency. And there was a chance that was going to be extended at least in through part of Trump's presidency. And now it won't be because of Manchin and Sinema, who, by the way, were the only ones. If they had voted for it, if they had voted to reappoint the NLRB head, then it would have gone through. But much like Build Back Better, they decided to team up and vote against it, and so now we're all fucked. I don't know. That's some of the most depressing news that I have heard throughout all of this. Just the fact that Manchin and Sinema have effectively, they ruined the Democratic Party. I mean, if it wasn't for them, if they had voted with Democrats throughout Biden's term, we very well might have been looking at a re-election of Democrats. We would have been looking at so many much better policies than we've seen. We'd literally be living in a different world. But literally because of those two, and because of the fact that they are open to being bribed by corporate interests, we're stuck with Trump, and we are pretty much vulnerable to all of Trump and his cronies' worst possible policies with absolutely no rudders. So thank you to them.
Another loss for Schumer. Whew. Actually, I had not heard about that yet. I've been kind of running around. I haven't looked at any news. That is incredibly depressing. I guess not terribly surprising, though, right? I mean, we knew Khan was going to be out. Trump hated her. And, it was up to him. So we knew that was going to happen, but it is disheartening seeing it become official. And then with the NLRB, I'm not surprised about that either. But it could have been the one thing the Democrats still had control of, I guess. What is with Manchin and Sinema? I don't know much about them other than their independence, right? Like, I thought they were known as left-leaning, but then keep voting Republican, which was confusing me. I didn't know if it was just some Trumper shit or what, but I mean, I know they're independents, right? They're not Republicans. They're definitely not Democrats. Like, what is their deal, and why do they keep torpedoing things? We really are just completely fucked.
Manchin and Sinema were both elected as Democrats and then changed to independent. So with Manchin, it's a little bit less of a head scratcher. I will give him the credit of saying that he has been pretty consistent throughout his career. He was never a left-wing Democrat. He was always like a pretty centrist, right-leaning Democrat. And when Biden got elected, it immediately became clear that Manchin was going to be a central piece of what would or would not allow Biden to get certain things passed, because he didn't often, always agree with Democrats, and he was an essential vote because they only had 51 seats. And so what has happened with Manchin is not really a surprise. The thing with Sinema is a little crazier because she seems to have been courted by the right. I mean, she was elected as a progressive. Like, if you look up clips of her talking about climate change, talking about inequality, stuff like that, I mean, she was like a firebrand progressive, and that was part of what got her elected. And then she switched, and it seems like she got courted by very powerful people on the right, very powerful corporations on the right. She got a lot of money just like injected directly into her campaigns and PACs in her name and stuff. I mean, that's what they do. It's bribery. And she, at a certain point, sort of decided that she was going to make herself available to that. And so I think all of the voting that she has done to tank the Democrats is, it's pretty clearly, like in this case, Republicans needed somebody on the Democratic side who was going to be down to sabotage the Democrats' control of the NLRB, and so they went to Kyrsten Sinema, and she was willing to do it. And you sort of see the same thing with John Fetterman now. Fetterman has done the exact same thing, where he ran as a progressive, he won as a progressive, and then as soon as he gets into office, he starts, acting like a right-winger and, making it pretty clear that he is going in that direction. And I don't know if it's that he sees it as profitable, or if he sees it as it's like he claims that something changed in his brain when he had that brain injury, and he just lost his progressivism. I don't buy that. I think that's an excuse for the grift. For one reason or another, he decided that he was going to move to the right, because I think that somehow or another that benefits his career more. And there is a lesson to be learned about people running as progressives in the Democratic Party. For some reason, those people seem more willing to make these like broad swings to the right.
So, money.